Howdy, my friends and family. My name's Trey, and today I've got a video for you. A little talk called Flipping the Script on Intentional, Institutional, Inner Inversion. Yes, me know that I gotta roll. No matter what I say, the devil can't steal it all. But blessings follow everywhere that me they. Me say me good with everybody. I give thanks to the original one. For the queendom somehow she will come. 'Cause peace is the creation and peace are everything to me. Joy is what I'm bringing and giving. Flipping the script on intentional, institutional, inner inversion. If you obey, everything you know about hex is wrong. This is a very interesting conundrum for a narcissistic person. I could see my reflection perfectly on the glass, but it's not the same as the picture. So, I was only a little boy, at least a decade before I identified as a Heyoka. That I noticed what I was told in Sunday school was just about always, of course, the exact opposite of what the television was blaring and what I learned in forced compulsory Rockefeller school, K through 12. And so my Sunday school teachers taught me that God is love and that Jesus is the Prince of Peace. The way toward wholeness is within the original pure truth that the Christ essence is, of course, always within us all. And Yeshua even said openly, "You will do greater things than I have done." He was not a salvationist, but a Gnostic. Some explicit truth even remains in the Bible. For example, to keep it actually authoritative and believable to a degree, they had to put actual words the Master Yeshua has said. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. Ephesians 6 through 12 through 13, King James Version of the Bible. I just pulled it up on the Google. Did you know that the New Testament mentioned archons? Well, I would say in this scripture, they're basically that the Christ is basically referring to the archons in that scripture openly, the rulers of the darkness. We fight against the rulers of the darkness of this world. So from Atlantis to the era of this quote to nowadays, we have seen the rapid, massive expansion of controllers, coercive captures of all perception of authority, through the subversion or hijacking or even co-creation of our institutions that we believe are authority as well, or the false concepts of savior religions and mommy governments. From way back, you can see that these same inverted principles, from the codification of the original Nicene Council in the year 325 to the Council on Foreign Relations, we can see the explosive inverted power of couch, ills, cancel culture, and a sick growing acceptance of obedience to liars or clubs of people trying to control everything just because they have built these massive concocted institutions of, billionaires and millionaires, and intentionally invested archontic control strategies, as Lisa Renee calls them. It's all so blatantly obvious for those with eyes to see the real truth. Again, if trauma and torture-based, coercive, compulsory slavery, or for example, compulsory schooling, or worker schooling, and then box control, or survival control through trauma bonds to the fallen angels who built the Matrix so masterfully that it worked on the majority of the world, compulsory wage slavery and ideological captures are smart. The negative master, again, if trauma and torture-based, coercive, compulsory slavery and ideological captures, and forcing people to be their own wardens is a smart idea, then the negative aliens are masters of reality. If freedom, relative harmlessness, sovereignty, and love are the basis for actual life, if morality is a factor in your discernment, most institutions have been simply shilling hollow shells for the deceivers. And it's all become out on the table. It's all become in your face. In the last half a decade, we've seen it arise in your face. Why? Because, in my opinion, the second coming of the fallen angels precedes the second coming of the real Christ. Okay, it's growing, and growing. It's going to take a while because, again, the destroyer angels did a great job in creating all their media, and they're a brilliant job in distribution. So most institutions have been simply, gradually, the more powerful they get, or even from their inception, some of the ones we've seen try to take over have been simply shilling hollow shells for the deceivers. Their main intent is control and farm maintenance. The human farm maintenance. Loose generation was always the intent. Energetic, and all vampires can be easy to spot, and if that's part of the shadow work that remains undone, then that black hole can be a real painful torture to that person. So, but they're easy to spot if you know the signs. Those who obey the derogatory archontic voices are also blatantly obvious with clarity. Okay, if you know how to meditate really well, or if you take enough cannabis and you have an open mind, there's several ways I've experienced that people could discern this. But once you get in the habit, or the acquired taste of discernment, you'll be able to. This is the whole, one of the obvious, reasons to a pedestrian who's not awake why gnosis is powerfully good, because you can learn how to tell if someone's evil a lot quicker. So, those who obey the derogatory archontic voices are also, if you see the signs, okay. So it's obvious. So from the Sumerian cuneiforms to Abrahamic religions, to the ever-escalating psychic and nanotech attacks of the SDC and the WEF, we can see ever more clearly the intentions behind their anti-life hive mind actions and overt takeover plans. When they write books about it, when they, they give you the media memes and reels to lace it into your thoughts thousands of times, trust the science. And yet they couldn't jail Jeremy Kauffman for things his friends posted, his libertarian friends posted on X that were pretty stupid things to say. But I don't similarly, I don't deserve any attacks for saying the truth. And it's because when you stand up for your rights, when you say the truth, it's not, you risk many, you risk everything trying to come after you. But on the other hand, the truth it doesn't need me or anyone. The truth is protection, irregardless of big farms' control over Alphabet. Jerry Marzinski is still sharing the actual truth about the so-called schizophrenic voices to some degree. Because he's, a Christian, he can only do it, to that degree. So the liars, killers, thieves, and black magicians of the negative alien-controlled secret societies gradually turn the earth, human bodies, and the skies into a prison planet. Alex Jones calling his thing that wasn't really, far off the mark in that. But it's so negative, it's like, well, what do you do about it? Well, that's one of the main things I'm here to share. One of the main concepts I'm here to help with. But again, for one, step one is you have to know what you don't want, and you have to understand how powerful the Decepticons actually have been. Okay. They didn't just make everyone into energy slaves overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day. It took a while. They built, they built their MMSDC soul capturing and light stealing gadgetry. This was, of course, after using the spoils of all the wars to build these big, intimidating buildings, structures. That's right. Every time the conquistadores or whomever, and especially around this place, but all around the world, when they conquered a place, they built their big, intimidating churches and buildings and squares and out of steel and stone, these big, massive stone, intimidating building structures, column cathedrals, massive concrete and steel edifices of Catholic, Jewish, Christian, and Muslim churches, synagogues, and big government buildings for ancient systems built purely on lies and killing and taking. They sure figured out how to appear as real authorities, the actual truth, and they've never given up the insistence on the righteousness of the official institutional inversions. I will say one caveat, with the exception of the Catholic Church. After this is a remarkable, a perfect shining example of an Age of Aquarius, remarkable flipping the script. The Bible Covenant official Bible, 3 official Bible thumper denominations in the USA. The Bible Covenant Church, the one I was ordained in at age 15, the Presbyterian Church, and the Martin Luther or Lutheran Church. About 7 or 8 years ago now, they repudiated the Doctrine of Discovery of 1406, I believe. What does that mean? That means they acknowledge that it was wrong for that Pope to say that it was okay to come over here and kill off any people who didn't convert to Catholicism and take their riches and make it into towns like they did all along the coast of California. And then Why did I mention the Pope? Because this year, the Ophiuchus, he's of course into all the dark stuff probably, but the South American Pope, he repudiated it, So they had to wait till they got an Ophiuchus from a different continent, and so he said it was absolutely horrible that they cut the heads off all the people that wouldn't convert to Catholicism, So back in, so many centuries ago, so. But of course, they're never going to give up on the insistence of their righteousness, even as well as after they, again, as other people have stated many times, they obviously they paid off all the people who were victims of the sexual abuse like over a decade ago, like millions and millions of dollars. So they've still probably in those, my guess is probably in those circles they probably haven't changed. And they've never given up on the insistence of the righteousness of the official institutional inversions. Bruce Jenner, Belinda, was Woman of the Year, for example. Like, it's okay, for them to do whatever they want to their body, but, I think it was Time or People magazine, or one of those silly magazines, Anyway, or Sports Illustrated did a David Chappelle made a hilarious talk about Sports Illustrated doing a spread of her. So the Kent State shooting, the Kent State massacre in 1970 kept college students from protesting war for 53 and a half years till the one brilliant, or one of the several only benevolent and brilliant things I can say that happened at UCSC since the horrible transformation of the last 5 years was, that's right, I went down here and they had, there was an estimated over 1,000 or 800 people, maybe sitting Indian style, blocking the entrance to the main campus to protest the war in Israel. I was so moved to see that. I thought it was really beautiful. So UCSC right over here might have been the first college, or amongst several of the first to protest war in 53 years, because it intimidated students, when they shot 4 of them for protesting war. So the acid test, beginning 5 years before that, also right here in Santa Cruz, one of them was, also did a great service in removing awareness from would-be dissenters. In other words, having them lay on the ground, tripping, lose their mind, and become psychotic because of the LSD residue was a great way to keep them from protesting the wars. If they took too much, So, living backwards, the woke movements. Why do they call it woke? Because it's sort of like in the cartoon that when I was a little boy, I watched the Smurfs. Gargamel would always leave a clue. Well, Lucifer and this SDC are like Gargamel. BG is like Gargamel. BG said that the number one problem in the world is overpopulation, like over 10 years ago in a TED Talk. They leave clues. They don't, because no one, not even Lucifer, is 100% evil. Nothing is 100% evil. Almost no one is 100% purely good. That's why channeling gets rough and around the edges and all that, So, again, but the Luciferian principle is obviously ass backwards, right? So that's why it's called woke instead of awakened. The word devil is lived backwards for a reason, because the hippies, after they made it about LSD, it was the hippies, the false feminist movement, and the past tense devils living backwards. Woke movements have all been extremely obvious. Again, for those with eyes to see the truth, they've been extremely obvious inversions of the truth. The socialist president, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, was in a wheelchair. I think he had polio. And he created the big mommy, uber popular West Coast, California loves the government welfare system. If you have a mental or physical incurable illness. Let the government pay for you to be a sickly financial dependent. Even if you're willing to just simply be a homosexual couple. I noticed when I was waiting for my checkup psychiatrist appointment, they flashed on the big screen. We're now accepting applications for you to sit home and take money from the government and sit home with your married spouse just because you're homosexual. I mean, that's what it appeared to me from the advertisement. I'm not saying that's what it was saying, but that would seem to be. It's like in the 1970s it used to be in the DSM-3 or whatever, but they took it out. But I'm not saying that it's mentally ill, but it's funny how the government flips so fast on these things. And knowing the age of Aquarius and the second coming of Christ was coming, those who incarnated and came here to share the truth and teach love, respect, and freedom were heavily targeted, isolated, and kept in all kinds of mental and physical shackles. For example, the more I made videos, the more adamant I've been about doing this service, the more, the more archons were probably assigning entities to make certain that I would stay isolated and not be taken seriously and shadow banned or whatever. So the bifurcation began long ago with the popularization of Satanism, Luciferianism, and blood drinking and massive SRA. And in the last, since the turn of the century of the year 2000, we've seen the gradual popularization of the coolness, the mainstreaming of Satanism, after school satanic daycare where the teacher openly teaches Luciferianism, Baphomet worship. In the school district in Chicago, Tucker Carlson had a man on there who openly said twice a month he had a free after school. To the drag queen story hour. We have a lot of changing ideas about what's acceptable here in the mainstream being forced. So, however, in the age of Aquarius, all secrets will be revealed and all deceivers will be seen as, to some degree, suicidal. As, everything I say and do to others, I'm doing to myself. It's just the reality. The golden rule of the Bible, as I've said in that one video, is just a watered-down version of the truth, is that every frequency, not just treat others as you want to be treated, it's every single frequency you put out is going to hit you in the ass. So, as all we do to others, we do to ourselves. Narcissists will become known as mentally ill very soon future, and possessed, because they're possessed. The more possessed they are, they'll be known to be possessed. The adamantly peaceful or free, the harmless will not be thought of as idiots for much longer. This inverted world is being continually exposed. I once asked an old man at the laundromat, probably like a decade ago or so, after discussing something with some crazy homeless person or whatever, why is it that I know brilliant people that are homeless on the street, and the wealthiest people run wars and have no awareness of morality or social respect? He replied, well, that's how it is in an inverted world. And this is where I feel that the soul trap theory, I didn't put this in my notes, but it's an interesting point I was thinking about mentioning. What's wrong with the soul trap theory is that it can make you depressed or not want to do your best, not want to live out your dreams, especially sexually, not want to reproduce. And you know what? I've noticed that the people I follow that are really into it deeply, most of them, a lot of them don't have children. And but on the other hand, they make a lot of good points. And even up to David Icke, you know what? I don't necessarily ever believe that because someone has hundreds of thousands or millions of followers that they're controlled opposition or what they're saying is wrong. They might leave out bits of the information. Like, for example, even with all the selenite rods in the earth, call me an optimistic, a crazy optimistic person. But even with all the selenite rods in the earth and all the mind control, even with the hexagram in Saturn, I still believe that, there's a way at a certain point humanity could get strong enough with the white hats and the good ETs and so forth to actually, say, for example, by the year 2030, blow up the moon, clear off the rings of Saturn, get the hexagram, get all the machinery out, clear it all out. I'm not saying it would be easy. I'm not saying it's just like the experiment. It's like having to deal with the results of the grand experiment. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be really fucking hard to clean up this planet and the people and the other planets and get the moon out of here. But you know what? Like, I wouldn't put it past the mighty humans, as the Wizard of Wevenho calls us, because, the human species, that's the thing that they didn't realize in the year 2020. The human species is far more, courageous than they realize, I think so, which is interesting. So, and nothing has ever been so obvious as what has been done in the last 5 years, from Event 201 to Schwab's book to Lahaina and Asheville. The extremely popular lapdogs of Loser 4 have been so dumb they have actually believed that they could bounce. They believed the fallen angels when they were taught or coerced or terrified into believing that they could bounce or circumvent their karma by putting on the human race or by pretending to have altruistic intentions, by making lots of marketing and advertisement that made all these, the grand experiment, for example, out into being altruistic, right? So the words, for an example of their black magic spelling, climate change and sustainability, were used by the big boys, bad institutions to terraform the entire sky into a place where this town where, if it wasn't for geoengineering, every single day, if it wasn't raining, 75 degrees in the afternoon, if the sky is blue. And sometimes, you know what? Before they started geoengineering so much here, the first couple years I got here, if it was cloud coverage because it was going to rain, it would warm up. Okay? But again, the Dark Lords and the beings and the people, the humanoid or whatever that are actually willing to fly these planes, they're so worried about money, their children or their husband, their wife or whatever, they're willing to pollute our whole region for a paycheck with this horrible experiment on the sky. They believe they could bounce or circumvent their karma by, if they get this other guy to do it instead of them. They get the nurse to do it instead of you. So the words climate change and sustainability were used to also, for all their programs. Violent, genocidal geoengineering to cool us all down. Like, it's been in the 30s at night here. It would never do that if it wasn't for this shit. They've dumped millions of tons of aluminum dust clouds, with smart dust mixed with nucleated ice, and lithium sometimes and other toxic metals over which would never occur in nature. Study, it's a fact that aluminum does not occur in a dust cloud in nature. This is some sick ass alien terraforming technology that's called geoengineering, and it's a huge part of the war, and that's why I talk a lot about it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to have to put on a heavy coat in Santa Cruz in the afternoon, but sometimes they put so much of this garbage and these metals in the sky that it's a necessity. The 3D humanoid oblivious still think those lines are clouds. Because the scientism death cult, because the fallen angels are so talented at mind controlling and coercing terrified 3D humanoid slaves. Because the scientism death cult told them so. Academia was hijacked or even built by the inverted institutions, built in the image of the false self, and now the postmodern, post-human, AI, human 2.0 cyborg slave plan. Nothing, I mean nothing, has ever screamed false reality of institutional inversion like the Loch Ness Down syndrome and all of the destruction the policies of this decade have caused. Anne Marie Uber, her YouTube channel is called Truth Meter. I've been really enjoying her videos lately. She has expressed the scary idea that the international experiment unplugged the victims from their light body. Well, I don't think they were too much interested in that kind of thing to be willing to go through that. So is that an obvious intention? As far as I'm concerned, all of the coercion of 4 years ago demonstrated unequivocally the enemy's intent and how they work within the fear. You know, what Robert Malone called mass formation psychosis is how powerful, has shown how powerful the fear is in the unawakened mind. The gods have returned, and this farm needs to be cleaned up. The herd needs thinning out. The institutions have already gotten away with the highly toxic big farm poisoning, you know, all the black magic medicines, all the petroleum-based and highly addictive formulations of side effect relieving medications that are made of extremely toxic things that, you know, getting all these people addicted to for decades and decades, and, you know, and had in some cases and places even forced it for a century prior to, you know, since a century ago when they convinced the vast majority of individuals that through the invention of the mainstream media when it was first invented, and through the powerful alien mind control techniques, all natural healers are called quacks. They're all insane. For a century prior to the experiment, they had most humanoids, especially in USA, believing that truth, what they said was the truth, and they were the authority, the authoritarians, you know, compulsory, and also forcing compulsory K through 12 for a century now. True authority about the spirit has been inverted for thousands of years. It is found within the human heart, Christ Sophia. If you're actually not going to harm yourself or anyone else or their stuff, you're actually free. You actually have the authority to choose what you will do. For thousands of years, folks were killed, tortured, and burned, and got on their knees to worship these powerful human farmers who claimed, you know, who claimed to be the creator, and enforced the claims in these incredibly anti-Christic plans. Hurt beings. Lucifer or Enki, the dark side, the secret societies. It's a chain of abuse. They're all extremely abused. But see, Lucifer, by going against his brother and his mother and deciding he was going to take over this planet and make it his farm and his energy, you know, he cut off his ability to feel his heart. Okay? He cannot do anything but suck. Okay? Sick people sicken people. The humans had accepted. It's just really sad. The humans had accepted dumbed down and being dumbed down and sterilized by becoming cell phone bots, and actually applying the one Semitic thing that Steve Jobs added to the New World Order, which is the word laptop. Like putting putting this computer on my genitals is something I never do. Okay, because maybe slim, tiniest chance that I'll, you know, be able to share the seed. Plant the seed, but it is, okay. For 20 years, studies have shown that the average human IQ point has gone down 20 to 30 points on average in the last 20 years due to scrolling cell phones, microwaving themselves with gadgets all day. And now, just this year, I finally caved and got one. And of course, I've expanded my wisdom a lot by learning on my cell phone through the 5G wireless, which we were terrified was going to fry us before it was invented, and it's pretty heavily frying. And I've been able to hear the AI parasites in the etheric planes and the pollution around here, even though I'm roughly over a mile in the forest here, for years before they put 5G in, when it was just 4G. So anyway, so it's been going on for 20 years now, folks, and it's working great. So that's, so they decided, hey, it was working great. We got to pull the main, all or nothing. The narcissistic ego, and also the fallen angels are always, the part of me that when I was younger and more satanic, it's always like all or nothing, No, that's splitting, okay? It's narcissistic splitting. Now is the time to seal the deal with the nanobot self-replicating colonies. Yuval Harari claimed the human soul was an old superstition, like, there's this old superstition that humans have a soul or a spirit. But we can program that out. What is the institution you follow? What is the institution that you obey? What is the institution that you work with? I'm a part of the revision of the New Earth Army. I mean, like it or not. It's, the planes, the Lockheed Martin planes might circle around, but I work with them because they spray their heavy metals on me, and I'm going to have to figure out what to do about it, okay? So, follow the money. Maybe AA is a good institution, Alcoholics Anonymous, because it's non-hierarchical and it's not for profit. That's very exceptional, very rare. If your institution is a co-op, maybe it's good. But often, like everything, it might be good in some ways. I'm not 100% pure. I'm not all bad. That's the sicko version of life. War is sickness. Racism is sickness. It's alien think. Okay? Group mind, hive mind, alien think, war, racism, violence, stealing other people, harming people at all. That's sickness. Okay? Follow the money. Okay? Alcoholics Anonymous is a good institution because it has no hierarchy or monetary intention. It is not cashing in. There are some good institutions. You can discern this by their track record. Okay? It's obvious, man. Most of the stuff I'll tell you on all these videos is just stuff you just need to remember. Where does the money go? The big farm, FDC, and now that Robert F. Kennedy is going to be in charge of the FDC, things might rapidly change. It's going to be, wow, man. Okay, Trump has appointed Tulsi Gabbard and Robert F. Kennedy in the last week. Now, see, man, this is going to be a very interesting change. So I'm really thankful to have people that care, even if they're in one of the bloodline families and a war killer that became a president candidate. Hey, they seem to have empathy and care, which is the thing I'm looking for, and anyone that wants to serve or lead anyone, so or have any influence over others and leading so-called leaders. Not that I believe in politics or statism is the answer. So the big farm, FDC and SDC revolving door policies, maybe RFK Jr. is going to put an end to that shit. But, look at BG generously donating to his own eugenics-based experimental corporation. Look at all the poison spread in the name of health. All the poisons those possessed beings spread in the name of health. Look at the mind-controlled fear of sunlight. Look at how we were taught that sunlight is so dangerous and wrong and evil. Look at the attack on sunlight access through what's called geoengineering, or colloquially known as chemtrails. which has rapidly escalated since Lockheed Martin openly with some AI or alien voice on their YouTube channel 2 years ago said that since 2022, Space Fence has been operational. What is Space Fence? It's to locate lost objects in space. Oh, really? Is that all? Check geoengineeringwatch.org on YouTube or Dane Wigington's stuff to learn the truth. What happens to life without pure sunlight? Well, we're finding out right now, aren't we? Or sunlight augmented by poisonous aluminum dust clouds. As I noticed as a child, to find the truth for most subjects, flip the script. It's likely the opposite of what they say. Like, stay indoors. And I'd look on the ground 4 years ago and it would say 6. And a yard away from that, 6. And a yard away from that, 6. And why would they always have 3? 6, 6, 6. Stay 6, 6, 6. Stay 6 feet away from anyone who believes in the tricks of 666. You know what 666 is? It's the number of carbon atoms in the nucleus and electrons and protons in the carbon atom, I believe. And so, because the fallen angels want us to remain, and those who believe in the idea, ascension theory, believe that we're going to have a crystalline body, a silica-based crystal body set up to ascend, and that taking these supplements, natural supplements that have silica and the cell salts helps to build it, and that meditating and being aware of the truth, and that we're taught, we're carbon because they want us to stay, farm animals. So it's interesting. So flip the script. To the dark ET controllers, you are here for their energy. That is why you must rent or own, property, your land, your box, your building. If you live around here, it's all you've known your whole life, whatever class you're in, unless you're super rebellious, even then, you see that the majority believe it. So you might be coerced back into it. Exist for your box. Remain compartmentalized in your, for survival mode. Even myself, and just the cost of all the things that I need to live, to take as food and medicine, since I'm not a farmer or a hunter, fisherman, or a wildcrafter, since I'm still dependent. So for they want the archonic forces want us all to remain, fighting, feeding them loose by fighting over bullshit, fighting over spots for houses or lovers, land, property, parking spots. Remain compartmentalized in your little narcissistic little me cubbyhole and fight over scraps of food from under the table of your masters, the dark ET controllers. What's depicted in the logo for the Godfather movie, the puppeteers, the puppet masters, the blood-drinking, self-appointed gods, and planetary rulers. Again, as you see what happened in the last 4.5 years ago, the 1% robber barons just really personified exactly what happened to a certain race of people thousands of years previous. And wow, somebody's calling me from St. Helena's Island. And that's awesome. So follow the money and discern the intentions, just like the old gods. The new SDC gods tortured their followers into compliance. Some of our friends and family and loved ones who weren't willing to lose their job. Does that mean 2020 was the fallen angel's slow suicide plan? By revealing who they are, by revealing what they want, by trying to control everything openly like that? All the clubs that we're not, the clubs that we're not in, as George Carlin put it, to just show us all what they intend and how they'll do it. I mean, think about how many people have orchestrated against the fallen angels just because they made it so obvious. I mean, it ain't gonna work. It might be a battle, a huge battle for a long time, but maybe they, again, like Gargamel, maybe they want to fail, because when you don't have a heart, how can you think you're going to take over? When even if Lucifer could admit 10% of what the human heart could do, if that were possible, I think he'd be pretty terrified. So imagine how ignorant and afraid you have to be to think you can get immunity from taking on those experiments. What is the truth? Flip the script to learn how to discern. Sunlight, pure water, organic food. Like, for me, it's been raw milk, drinking down cultured eggs, regular sleep, eating healthy, not eating the things that feed the illness like cancer, like not eating sugar, not eating things that make you sick, eating the things that make you well, staying, regular, having regular sleep and regularity in bowels. Herbs such as cannabis, oregano, garlic, onion, silver, even metals like precious metals like silver and even gold in the colloidal form can be some of the most amazing things to build your immunity, Pure discernment of the Vajra, what the Buddhist Mahayana, what the Tibetan Buddhists call the Vajra, the unbreakable sword that cuts through all lies, transcending the false god archon's voices. Having that type of spirituality that if you have, you will not verbalize or believe the lies of Radio 666 again. At least while you hold that Vajra. Meditation, whether it's pranayama or any kind of meditation that works for you. And sovereignty. Reclaiming any part of sovereignty, but ideally if you're really brilliant, reclaiming it all. All chakras. These give you, and even get rid of the chakras if you don't need them. These give you immunity, learning how to be mentally and physically free, teaches you how to flip the script on the inverted institutions. I'm not certain about chakras or astrology. It depends on how you use these tools, right? Did Lucifer invent them, or are they good or bad? It's how you use the tools. Like a deck of tarot cards is not evil. It's how you use the tools. As always, the healing and the truth is mostly an inside job. I'm going to need feedback. I would love it to get feedback. If you can not say anything offensive, put feedback on YouTube. Otherwise, put feedback on Odyssey, Rumble. We must maintain our freedom of speech. But we need each other to test ourselves, to clarify, to improve, and eventually live physically and spiritually, soulfully in a community, and even institutions if we need them, based on freedom and sharing. Okay, the real God is within, and if you harm someone else, you're not accessing that real God, Goddess, Christ, Sophia, actually. Not an external controller. And if you're not being harmless, if you're harming someone, besides maybe stealing eggs or milk, since Lucifer designed us to need cholesterol, it's probably not going to be good karma. It's probably not going to be good for you. It might just be stupid. Probably going to be stupid, okay? So if the majority of humans know these moral truths, these basic first grade moral skills, then we could change the world. Then then the death trap can even be taken out, and the despondency that comes with soul trap theory can be kicked out as well. Call me optimistic if you want. Power, and I'm talking about power with, not power over, not hierarchical, sharing. Eventually turning this prison planet back into its original mission as a divine learning center and multiversity garden paradise, where souls can experience physicality, sex, music, dancing, gardening, healing the traumas of the kind of stuff that the masters of karma, the self-imposed masters of karma, want to keep us stuck in, trauma bonded to, in several lifetimes at most, as Wayne Bush said, or several have said. So again, but it's going to take a lot of work, and it may take centuries to fully clear all this stuff out. But call me a hopeful Irish. As I said before, there's a saying about the Irish person that they're the most depressing person to talk to when you speak about the moment, since we're in a psychological war, or in the moment of any war, because they'll talk about it. But the most hopeful when it comes to the future, because they feel the Christ within, because Lisa Renee claims that Yeshua was Irish. Van Morrison, Eric Clapton gave him a song about protesting being locked up, and Van Morrison was the only one of the few artists of any, probably the only pop star that put out a record against the mandates. So there you go. So and in the future, in the age of light, we will live, the planet, or the earth sphere, Gaia, the divine sphere Gaia, will live in a garden paradise, a learning center, multiversity, for the awakening of humans and all species, freedom, love, and pure awareness. If you enjoyed this content, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe for more videos. And of course, as always, if you have the courage, create a great day, even if it's fake ass cold in your face.